Hey everybody, and welcome to FHP, formerly known as the Football Home Podcast. And we've got another episode for you guys, and we're going to discuss the happenings of the games during the week, as well as we're going to preview the next game, week 21 of the Premier League, as well as we're going to do a little bit of fantasy football, as well as discuss some of the transfers, and then we'll have our predictions game. So there's a lot to cover. So we'll jump right into it, and we'll start with first welcoming my two fellow colleagues here, Richard and Harry,
Yeah.
and we'll jump right into the Leeds versus Cardiff game, which was the FA Cup third round replay. And it was quite a big win for Leeds, massive scoreline. And I don't know if you gentlemen watched the game. So we're going to start with Richard. What did you think about Leeds' performance overall going into this replay?
Okay, I'll start with what I didn't expect because I think that's easier. One thing I didn't expect was to see 7 goals in this match. Outside of Marcelo Bielsa sort of like Leeds after he left, they didn't seem to be a team that scores like 4 or 5 goals every game, right? Now that the new manager's there, now especially in this game, FA Cup, they've scored 5 goals, but again, it's against a team that not really is in like top flight Premier League. So it's sort of like it's a shocking, but maybe one could say it's an expected scoreline. But it's lovely seeing someone who I call, I'm not sure if this is offensive, but I call him Black Messi, Nyoto, who's like the right winger for Leeds. Yeah, he's quite fast. He comes in from the wing, gets in those assists, and then goals. I think he literally came out of nowhere and he's now like one of the most top performing players in the Premier League right now. So yeah, it was a fun game to watch.
Harry, I'm not sure if you watched the game, but seeing that the scoreline was 5-2 in favor of Leeds, and if you watch the first leg of this, the first third round cup tie between, it was a
Yeah.
2-2 draw. Were you surprised that Cardiff couldn't, get more goals in, or that they couldn't beat Leeds, because they did give them a run for the money in the first round that they played against each other?
Not really. I think Leeds probably expected to win being a Premier League side. Cardiff are a lower league side. I think I didn't expect Leeds to go and score five. Like Richard said, but that was a bit of a shocker. But I think that just I think it shows the different level between them. I think it shows that Leeds' defence is a little bit shaky. The fact that Cardiff managed to score two on them. I was impressed. I did see Yonto scored a couple. Like Richard said, he's actually really turning out to be a real force in the game. And I saw him last week against Aston Villa, and he skinned Ashley Young. He's just turning out to be a really good player. He's really promising. I think the signs are promising for Leeds. I think they're a good side. I think, like I've said before, I think they're a young side, and I think their time is still to come. And I think if they survive the relegation this season, I think next season you could see the best of them maybe.
Yeah.
If they can get a good defender or two, they can really be a force to be reckoned with, like a Brentford or a Fulham or a Brighton. I think they can really cause problems for teams, especially in attack. They seem to have really strong players, and we've seen it already in the early parts of the season. They kind of dropped off in the later half for whatever reason, but in the early half, we did see them cause some problems. And if they can keep that up going into next season, then I think they could be a real force to be reckoned with. But yeah, look, impressive victory. They're into the next round. Probably is a worry that Cardiff were able to score two twice in a row on them, but
yeah,
look, a win is a win. I'm sure they'll take that.
Yeah, so yeah, it's impressive what Jason Boss has done with this club. Seeing when he took over from the previous manager, and how he's been able to get them, forward in some of these games. They beat some big teams like Chelsea, Liverpool. They've got the gusto. So I know, Richard, you're a big fan of Jason Bosch, and what he's done. Do you think Leeds has what it takes to survive um, this battle that they're in right now in the Premier League?
I doubt it. I mean, look, there's teams like Brighton, there's teams like and like Newcastle and Brentford. I mean, Brentford, I think it's probably another one of the shocks. They literally came from the bottom league, and now they're one of the most week by week top six sort of like shocking teams where they win against those teams, or even able to keep clean sheets at times. And I don't think Leeds is one of those teams. I do think they need a bit more time. Potentially next season will be a season where maybe they see themselves more in the top half of the season than the bottom half. So love Jesse Marsh still has as a bit of work to do, and everyone needs time. So I do think he needs time before he actually is part of the new grades or maybe a new top six for the Premier League.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. We'll move on to the next game, which is Wolves versus Liverpool that took place at Molineux Stadium on Tuesday night. It was also a third round replay for the FA Cup, and we saw Liverpool win by 1 goal. A screamer scored by by
Yeah.
Harvey Elliott, and
Yeah.
and that was massive. Harry, what did you think about Liverpool's performance?
Yeah, look, I didn't get to see the game, but look, it seems like it was a struggle, as it is all the time now for Liverpool, I guess. I think the early goal probably did them the world of good, and they were able to just hang on. It probably, if not, it probably would have gone to penalties, or Wolves might have nicked a late goal to win it. It would have been a struggle from there. They're just in a bad place at the moment, Liverpool, and I mean, they did make all the changes, I guess, which was a sign that they're not really focusing on the cup, whereas maybe they should be, considering their place in the Premier League. Maybe they should be focusing more on the cup, but I guess they are chasing a European spot badly because of where they are in the table at the moment, and it will make life difficult for them in terms of trying to get players if they're not in Europe next season. But yeah, look, Liverpool managed to survive. They hung on. Um, Not really much else you can say. I didn't really get to see the game, so I can't really speak too much of it. Let me see if I can find the stats from the game. Um, Let me see. Yeah, have it here. Okay. So stats. Wolves had more shots in the entire game than Liverpool did, 11 shots to 7. Liverpool both sides only had 2 shots on target the whole game. Possession was fairly even, it seems. Doesn't really seem like there was much in the game at all. It seems like it was fairly even. Maybe Wolves dominated just that little bit more, which is worrying because a side like Wolves should not be dominating Liverpool. You get used to a side like Liverpool dominating teams like Wolves. But yeah, look, they hung on. They got the win. Not convincing, but a win is a win.
The win is a win. Richard, were you surprised at the lineup from Wolves? Because in the first round that we played, they put in the second and keeper. And this round they went with Jose Sa, which is their number one. And
Mm.
Liverpool went with Callagher, which is our second keeper. So it was kind of like, what did you think about Wolves and the lineup and the way that they played? Because they dominated for the first couple of minutes of the game, and
Yeah.
then they kind of slid down, and near the end, they started picking up momentum again. So was this a case of, were you surprised that they couldn't get any goals in, seeing that they got 3 in the last time and 1 got disallowed?
Yeah. I mean, obviously after that 3-all game, you'd expect that maybe there'd be like at least 2 goals from at least one of the sides, but it ended up with 1 goal, obviously from Liverpool, and if maybe Harvey Elliott wasn't playing, could we have won this game, or maybe going through into the second half without having a goal, potentially maybe could have lost the tie, but obviously thank God we didn't. But it was nice seeing Jose Sa back. Obviously, he's their number one, and I think he's a much better keeper than the first time. But unfortunately, it still led them to a loss. But I mean, the previous keeper conceded 3 goals, so I guess Jose Sa has a say in the team. But look, I mean, we've always been talking about Wolves' lack of attack, and I mean, I saw Diego Costa being subbed in at some point in the game, and he didn't really have an impact too. And it's like, is it because of the structure of of Wolves' gameplay, the way they attack or lack thereof, that's sort of like stopping him from, having the potential we've always known him to have from Chelsea, Atletico, and all these other teams. Or maybe is he aged? Maybe they need to look at a different, like striker that's maybe younger, that can potentially bring them the much needed goals, because defensively they're one of probably the best defensive sides in the league, and they're on the bottom half of the table. But attack is a huge element they need to fix. And scoring 3 goals the last time, congratulations to you, but it needs to be more consistent, not just a one-time thing.
I have a question. Obviously, we know Liverpool are struggling at the moment. Was there anyone that kind of stuck their hand up and kind of said, kind of looked like they should be in this first team? Like, a lot of those players won't start against Chelsea on Saturday afternoon. Was there anybody that really stuck their hand up to say, pick me, I deserve to be in this team, I can help you?
Yeah, I think there were a few star players in the game. I think Bajcetic was quite class. I mean, someone could even suggest that. I mean, I love Fabinho, and I'll never substitute him with anyone, regardless of whether he's bad or what. But I mean, if Bajcetic is doing a good job, then might as well stay in that position a bit and see if he's kind of actually helping us win games or fits in that position much better than Fabinho is at the moment, because of his lack of form. Maybe when he's back to form, he can get in, because I think that's what a first team is all about. Who plays the best at that position, regardless of whether you play in the you're in the B squad or not. And Harvey Elliott, obviously, for giving us that goal, because like I said, if he hadn't scored that goal when he did, we could have went on to the second half and potentially could have lost the tie. So I think for me, so far, it's those two players. I think maybe Warren can talk a bit about Fabio Carvalho, if maybe he deserves a start or not. I don't know.
I think he should. He was part. He was part of the creative process. I would throw James Milner in there as well. He was amazing to watch. And coming from me, that says a lot, because I'm not the biggest James Milner fan, but he was just on fire.
Yeah.
He was like the holding player. He had the captain's armband on there, and I would start him if he plays like that every week. I'll start him. I think Carvalho did great. I think Stefan did great. Harvey Elliott should definitely start all games from going on forward. I don't know why he's on the bench. So yeah, I would say those four.
Yeah.
They definitely start. And then we've got Nunes back on Saturday as well. So that should also provide some depth for us going forward. Okay. Right, so we move on to the next match, which was in the Premier League. Game week 20 continued. It was Crystal Palace versus Manchester United. And going into this game, we all believed that Manchester United, I myself included, would have the momentum, and they pretty much did, control the game, if you will. But, Crystal Palace at home, difficult fixture. And watching the game, you probably saw that, they were going to put up a fight. So we're going to go to Harry. He's our, resident Manchester United, supporter, and, he's like the ambassador for them. So we'll go to him. And what were your thoughts on the game? A lot of people thought Rashford was going to be amongst the goals. It turned out to be Fernandes. And then Martinez started the game. So what were your overall thoughts of the game? And do you believe it should have ended in a 1-1 draw?
I think we actually dominated the game, and I think possession-wise we dominated. We struggled really to kind of create chances, I felt like. It was just a moment of magic, really, from Eriksen kind of finding Bruno Fernandes in the box. It was a simple tap-in, really, for the United goal. Perhaps it should have ended 1-0. That free, that was just outrageous, really. I know Richard thinks it's goal of the season territory, but yeah, look, credit where credit is due to Palace. They put it up to us and made it difficult for United. One thing I did like about United was that Ten Hag could have easily rotated the squad. He could have said, yeah, look, we're focusing on the Arsenal on Sunday. I'm going to rest Casemiro because he's on a yellow. I'm going to rest Marcus Rashford. I'm going to rest Varane. But he didn't. He gave Crystal Palace the respect that they deserved. and went out there and with a full team, with their best team pretty much. And I think that was their best team. It was nice to see Martinez come back into the squad as well, kind of shore up the back line. I know Luke Shaw has been playing centre back, which is kind of a bit dodgy to me because he's not necessarily a centre back. Which kind of, and that allowed him to go back out to his preferred left back role. Aaron Wan-Bissaka was very good, actually. I thought he made a really clinical tackle at the end, which actually saved a point for United, which could have, like, if he hadn't done that, it would have been in. I did think it was a penalty for a minute, but then when they showed that he got the ball, I was like, okay, fair enough. There was a bit of a shout of a penalty on Bruno Fernandes. If it had been given, I don't think people would have complained. But the fact that it wasn't given, it was kind of too hard to overrule, I felt. Look, we had the chances. We didn't really convert them, though. That was the problem. We had the chance at the end as well. Casemiro nearly got his head onto a corner at the end there. Yeah. United had 15 shots in total in the game. Only 4 on target. Palace had 10 shots, though, with 5 shots on target. So that kind of says a lot about how they did and how they were allowed to dominate, which is kind of worrying. They shouldn't be allowed that kind of space. Look, Palace are a good team. They've just kind of slipped away a little bit. They kind of always kind of go under the radar, I feel like. No one really, they do okay. Like, they're not in a bad spot on the table at all. They're not at risk relegation. They're not in the top half. They're just doing their own thing, you know? And that's what Palace always do. They kind of just do their own thing. And every now and again, they just produce an upset against the side. And you just don't see it coming. Look, they deserved the point. They did really well. They hung on. They made life difficult for United. They pressed and made it difficult. I think Rashford struggled a little bit at times. He was trying too hard with the run he's on. It was just kind of just like, you know, when you're on that run, you kind of want to keep going. Maybe you kind of try a little bit too hard. Weghorst made his debut, didn't really do a whole lot. Can't really say much more. Look, we just didn't. I think sometimes United struggle to be clinical. I feel like sometimes it can be hard for them to finish off games, like you saw against Wolves a couple of weeks ago on the Saturday afternoon. That United can dominate a game, but they just can't necessarily score. Maybe some of the games have been more flattering. Some of the results have been more flattering to them lately because I think if United struggle to break down defenses, I think if you kind of have like teams that will get stuck in like Palace and make life difficult, it can be difficult then for teams to... It can be difficult for United to break them down and score. I think that's what we saw on Wednesday night. But look, it could have easily been a 1-0 victory for United. We'd be sitting here saying, look, they go and beat Arsenal on the weekend, they're in a title race. It could have, if it wasn't for that free, Palace didn't necessarily create any clear-cut chances apart from the free. And obviously the Wan-Bissaka tackle. I think United just got... I think it's a reality check for United, and I think, look, the goal... I know everyone's saying, oh, yeah, United were in a title race for all the 3 days. But, I think the focus was always Champions League. I think to say we were in a title race was kind of probably a little bit unrealistic.
Ambitious, yeah.
A little bit ambitious given the circumstances. Like, Arsenal are 6 points ahead? Sure, United would only have been 3 points behind Arsenal if they'd gone and beat them on the weekend. But then Arsenal have a game in hand as well. So it's kind of probably 6 points. And you can't really see Arsenal dropping 6 points through the season, you know. I think it was just a little bit ambitious. I think United fans probably just got a little bit carried away and ahead of themselves. And I think the media probably did as well. Look, I think it would have been an important milestone actually as well had United won. I think it would have been 10 games on the bounce in all competitions with a winning 10 games on the bounce, and I think that would have been the first time since Sir Alex Ferguson did it back in 2009. So that kind of shows a little bit about the Ten Hag revolution and how much he's got United back on track. Look, a reality check for sure, and I think it probably just exposes the fact that we're not where we want to be just yet. Look, I still believe we will get Champions League, and I think we're still. And I think that's the main goal: Champions League, and then build on that next season, get in a couple more players. I think that United can do it. I think if they can get in a decent striker in the summer, maybe shore up the midfield a little bit. I think Eriksen's kind of getting a little bit past it at this point. If they can get another midfielder to kind of a creative midfielder to replace him, get a striker in, and I think that they can do really well next season. Especially, I think Garnacho will have another year under his belt. Marcus Rashford is proving that he's capable of being the main man at United. If Sancho can get back, I know he's back in team training now. So if he can get back and get into some form, I think that United have a really good chance. And the defence is really solid as well. I don't think we've conceded many goals this season. And I think it's going to be hard for teams to play against us, and especially with Casemiro in front of them. Look, it's all promising signs for United, a small blip, but I think it kind of shows that we aren't as clinical up front as we would like to be.
Fair enough. So we'll move on to the Man City versus Spurs game, which was a cracker of a game last night. We saw Man City come from behind in getting 4 goals in and completely decimating, Tottenham Hotspur. So, Richard, I don't know if you watched the game, but what was your overall thoughts on both teams, City and Spurs? Because I know you had some of these people in your fantasy, so you were kind of like,
I'm still raging. Mahrez did that. I'm still mad.
Yeah, me too. Don't worry.
He's breathing down my neck now in fantasy, and I'm like, ah.
Yeah, I think I only just need 10 points for me to be, I think, equal as you. But hopefully I get more than that. Because I saw Jody's now third and I'm fourth. So there could be something there. But anyway, back to the game. Watching the first half, I mean, one would think that, okay, City constantly having these, like I said last week, like a downward spiral in terms of the performance. This is another one. And thing is, they're not just doing it with any team, they're doing it with Spurs, which is kind of like, also kind of a team that's in a bad spot, in the same way how in the next game week it's going to be Liverpool versus Chelsea, who are also going on their own downward spirals, but we'll see who gets out with the win there. But second half happened. I think Pep Guardiola probably gave the players a mouthful in terms of how they're playing. I saw a meme on the internet saying Pep in his team talk, Pep just said, "Come on, guys, it's Spurs," and then they went out there and they do best. It's got 4 goals. So I was hoping for a bit of some controversy between the two managers when the game ends, but nothing like that happened. So congratulations to City.
Yeah, it's typical Spurs, don't you agree? Typical Spurs. They've got the lead and then they squandered. And we all thought with Bentancur back in the squad, they have this last minute turnaround. It almost did, but I mean, once Morris got that the 4th goal in, it was like donezo. It was like, this was the City that was not there over the weekend. Wouldn't you agree? This was the City that did show up at Old Trafford.
So just doing a quick setup here. But also big congratulations to obviously Mahrez. But I think one thing I was scared of was, Haaland's performance recently. He hasn't been like scoring goals. I mean, so far it's just 1 goal since the World Cup. So, maybe there should be a bit of some more. And I saw some videos on YouTube sort of suggesting that maybe Haaland potentially could be a reason because City had to change the style of play. He could be the reason why things aren't going so well. So
Could be an argument that Haaland has reached his peak maybe a little bit, and now he's kind of
yeah,
really getting a little bit incline of performances. So maybe this was just the goal that he needed to just light a fire under his belly and move
yeah.
forward. So yeah, Wolves should be scared on Saturday and would not want to be them. Because last time it was a thrashing, so we will see what happens this time around. Okay, so that was the game week 20 wrap, and we're gonna move swiftly on to. I just need to get my fixtures up here. 1 second. Remember what's happening with this phone. Let's get
I
our
put them at the
fixtures up
bottom.
and running
Yeah.
for our preview of game week 2020 for our previews for game
Yeah.
week 21. Excuse me. So we'll start with the Saturday match, which is the early lunchtime match between Liverpool and Chelsea. This is the first time these two are facing each other this season. Both teams are kind of on and off with the form. Richard, your thoughts? What do you think is going to happen?
I'm trying to think who has it together defensively. I mean, Thiago and what's the other guy's name? Koulibaly. Are they good? They kind of been having mixed sort of like performances. But I look at who's in attack, who will be in attack. Nunez, Salah, and Gakpo. I mean, Gakpo still trying to get his feet. Nunez, the worry is his clinicalness, but I think even though he's bad, when I look at Salah, I think maybe our best shot at least having one goal would be from Nunez. So midfield wise, we'll see who Klopp starts in the midfield. Maybe that could dictate what happens in the game, but I think Liverpool always concede in the first half, so hopefully that doesn't happen. Especially now that Chelsea has been literally blowing their cash in the transfer market. I don't know which striker they're going to play, and how that's going to affect how we play. Because I've noticed that Klopp plays well against big teams, and because he has a lot of research on big teams and how they play, he's more used to their style. But when it comes to these other teams that aren't that big, he has a little sort of like he doesn't know how to prepare for it. And I saw noticed the same thing with Pep Guardiola concerning the way Eric Ten Hag plays. He did say in a press interview that look, I don't know how Eric Ten Hag plays. So I don't know who's gonna start up and what's my game plan. And look at what happened in that game. So I think with a lot of these top managers like Pep and Klopp, a lot depends on their preparation. So I should think Liverpool will win this one because I think they know how Potter plays and he hasn't been playing well too. So there's that.
Okay, yeah, I agree with you. I think Liverpool might just have the edge this time around because Chelsea is a bit frail. So hopefully, if Liverpool scores first, I've got hope because once they score first, they don't lose. So
Yeah, encouraged.
they just need to get that clinicalness up front, get the goals in, and kill the game off as soon as possible. Because it has been a bit unnerving watching them play because you don't know it's a bit of
Confidence.
a it's an unpredictable thing, and hopefully they can settle now. And once February comes and Jota and those people come back, things can settle down. The other
Yeah.
fixture that's happening, there will be a goal rush. Obviously, a couple of games. Saturday normal is a goal rush of width of games. We will have Leicester versus
Yeah.
Brighton, which I believe Brighton should have it in the bag. I think they've
Yeah.
got just the squad, the gift of squad that they've got. Even with Trossard, like now going to Arsenal, we talk about that in a little bit. They probably don't need him. Solly March is there, Ferguson is there, Thomas there. You've
Yeah.
got Casado, you've got all these great. You've got McAllister, all these people. So going on the form that Leicester's in, they still don't have Madison. So I think Brighton has it in the bag. What do you think?
Yeah, sure. Let's not debate. I think one of my predictions at the end of this episode will be that Brighton will run away in that game with a clean sheet because there's no way those guys are scoring against Brighton.
Unless Madison miraculously is fit for Saturday. I've not seen anything because I'm waiting for that. I need to put him back into my fantasy because that guy, as soon as he splits, he's going back into my fantasy Premier
Yeah.
League. My team versus you. Right. So, and we will move on to Southampton versus Aston Villa. So these are two teams that have really, gotten the groove back. They've got a couple of wins under their belt. James Ward-Prowse is on fire. You've got Aston Villa under Imre, who they've got Konza. You've got even though they've got a lot of injuries, they've got the new signing Alex Moreno, and you've got
Yeah,
and you've got Leon Bailey, who is like scoring like there's no tomorrow. Only issue is that they've got Danny Ings now moving to West Ham. We'll touch on that a little bit later in the podcast. So, Richard, what are your thoughts? Because these are two teams that are finally finding their feet a little bit. Even though Southampton is at the bottom of the Premier League still.
yeah. I mean, even just looking at the pre-game sort of like predictions on who people think is going to win. Apparently, Aston Villa could do it. I mean, one thing we've always says is that sometimes we don't know what's the reason why a team tends to perform after this new manager. Is it because the new manager is actually doing a good job, or all the players are just happy that okay, there's a new energy, you can do this, and they start are winning. So, and both teams have fairly new managers, but I do think Aston Villa are most probably going to run away with this one because of the more experienced manager there.
But do you think that the injuries that's in Aston Villa at the moment that they sustained during their last match, Watkins isn't there, Dinia isn't there, so they lost the striker in Watkins. So that could be worrisome for them. So it's going to be interesting to see what Imre does with the lineup because Ings won't be there as well as Watkins is out. So we might see the return of Coutinho on the weekend starting. So we'll see.
Potentially,
Right. The next match, I'm just waiting for it to scroll there, is West Ham
yeah.
versus Everton. That's a battle at the bottom of the Premier League. Two teams really struggling right now. I do predict that just based on form, it might end in a draw. It could end in a draw. For me, I think Everton defensively is a bit stronger than West Ham. So they might even run away with it, but I'm not as confident with Everton's attack. If you understand what I mean,
Yeah.
there's just inconsistency there. Worse than other teams, they scored the least goals, I think, besides Wolves. So this could be a one where West Ham should take the points. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I should think so because look, I mean, okay, there's been a lot of things happening at Everton. Number one, in my opinion, the best player was Iwobi. Um, every time I think of Iwobi, I just remember that crush I had actually had a crush on Iwobi. So interesting fact there.
So it's a
But
constant reminder for you.
if it's a sad reminder. So it's almost like I have to compete with it. But
Yeah,
look, I mean, he's been their best player, but now that he's injured, I believe he's still injured.
yeah.
I I don't know what Everton have going for them. I believe Tomari Gray plays for them, so he's been kind of a new star. Maybe he could do something, but I think the most he can do is to just score one goal at best.
Mm,
So I do see Everton losing this game.
yeah.
And yeah, there's been something happening there where there was a fire at the stadium and the board was advised not to come into the game. And there was a few protests where Waimina also had to like stop the protesters from getting in, a whole mess. So yeah, I'm sure the
Mm.
players aren't in the right space of mind at the moment, but yeah, I don't see them winning.
Yeah, so yeah, that would be interesting. West Ham, if they don't take the points, I feel worried. I'm worried with the type of players that they've got. They've got Bowen, they've got Antonio, they've got Kamaka, they've got all these great players at West Ham. And West Ham is a team we just don't talk about this
Yeah.
season, which is shocking. The other game
And
that's also, yes,
yeah, I was
no,
going to
that's
say,
fine.
and I heard that there's a rumor that potentially if Everton win that game, then David Moyes potentially will be fired after that game should they lose to Everton. So,
So
one to find out.
massive stakes for West Ham and David Moyes. So we'll see what happens. So hopefully, now that they're under the pump, they'll will crack out a win. Right. The other match that's also happening on, I think it's on Saturday, is Manchester City versus Wolves. And yeah, I expect a complete trashing against Wolves. I don't foresee anything else. Last time out, Manchester City won 3-0. Jack Grealish
Mm.
scored in the very first minute of that game. So, and now that they've tasted victory again in such a massive way against Spurs, I don't foresee. Um, if Wolves, let's just put it, if Wolves win, it will be the upset of the season. But I don't think they've got a snowball's chance in Hades to to win this game. So, what are your thoughts, Richard?
Yeah, I mean, it's not even up for debate. Yes, there's a new manager, Lopetegui, I believe, but I don't think he has what
Yeah,
it takes to beat Pep Guardiola's City. I mean, yes, they have been having ups and downs, but one thing about them is that they're good defensively, and I mean, I can't say that they're starting to score with Haaland, especially after winning 4-0 previous game. So potentially there is a chance that maybe the game will end 1-0 to what's the other team? 1-0 to City. But,
yeah.
that would be the shock of the season, like you said. Totally unexpected. But yeah, I'm expecting City to run away with this one. Like, easy, no debate.
Yeah, just aside that the City game is on Sunday at 4 o'clock. So the other match that's also happening on Saturday is Crystal Palace versus Richard's, I think, second favorite team, Newcastle.
Yeah.
Crystal Palace just got that big win against, not a big win, but they got a point against United, which is huge. Not a lot of teams have done that this season.
Yes.
So they are probably going in there with a lot of confidence into this fixture. But Newcastle is our beast. They have not lost besides to Liverpool, and
Yeah.
they don't concede goals. So I predict that Newcastle will be winning this one. I won't say well they will be winning it comfortably. Might be 1 or 2 goal difference, depending on who they feel. But Newcastle might have the arsenal just to blow Palace out of the water. What do you
Mm.
think?
Yeah, Crystal Palace were lucky with that free kick goal from Olise. Congrats to them. But there's something
Yes.
called a one-hit wonder, so I don't see him pulling it off again. Uh, but there's also a reason why Newcastle, I think, is the best defensive side in the whole of Europe. Potentially, maybe Napoli could be contesting with that. But I think so far they've had the best defense. So, I mean,
Hmm.
I see them running away here with the clean sheets, and then Trippier as man of the match, as always, past like
Yeah,
one.
obviously, because everybody's got him in the fantasy,
Yeah.
so everybody's voting for him. Yeah, I love watching Newcastle play. They've got Alexander Isak back as well, so another
Oh,
threat. Even though Chris Wood is going to the team that we're going to talk about
yes.
in a second. Yeah, so but they've got Wilson, they've got Almiron, they've got St. Maximin, they've got Murphy, they've got Joe Linton, they've got all these. Look at it, Bruno Guimaraes, they've got Trippier, they've got Shaw, they've got all these great players. That squad is just amazing. Eddie Howe
Yeah.
is doing amazing. Right, and the last match on Saturday will be Bournemouth versus Nottingham Forest. Forest is no longer at the bottom. They currently on 13th on the log. Bournemouth is number 16. And Bournemouth have been going on a little bit of a dip ever since Gary O'Neill got permanently
Yeah.
assigned as the head coach of the team. And Newcastle and Nottingham Forest kind of like they've got this oomph
All right.
they're into the semi-finals of the Carabao Cup, and they've got a decent squad. So what do you think chances are for Newcastle to run away with the points here? Not Newcastle, Nottingham Forest,
Yeah.
excuse me.
I think that game could go either way because I've seen some positive, sort of like, what should I call it? I think growth probably is the word from Bournemouth, and
Mhm.
Nottingham Forest, however, has been having a few wins, especially after the World Cup. So I'm not sure if they had more time to prep, especially because I don't think they have World Cup playing players in their team. But yeah, I probably think Nottingham Forest should be able to at least run away with it. But if it's a draw, like this is one of the games where it's like I don't care what the result is. Like whoever wins, whether it's a draw, it's like oh well, you know. Expected.
Yeah, true. And the big question mark for Forest is that Dean Henderson is injured. He will be out for a couple of weeks. So probably Wayne Hennessy in goal on from Saturday onwards, or from
Yes.
Saturday onwards. But Bournemouth could, exploit that because
Yes.
they've conceded most goals. They've lost almost all the games where Dean Henderson were not there. So that's a big loss for them, for Forest. So hopefully they will be able to retain Bournemouth. But we'll see what happens. This should be one of those, it could go either way type of games. Right, so we'll move on to Sunday, and we'll have Leeds versus Brentford. Brentford is in the form of their lives. Ivan Tony is back.
Like,
Ben Lee is amazing in defense. The what's the other guy? Christian Norgard is the holding midfielder. Is doing amazing for them. So they're covered in all areas. And
yeah.
Leeds, they're one of these yo-yo clubs this season where they do great and then they miss a couple of games, they do bad. So Richard, what do you think is going to happen? I believe Brentford is winning quite comfortably this game, but I do believe they'll concede goals also.
Yeah, I also think so. I think Brentford should be able to run away with this one, especially now that the betting man Ivan Tony is back. If he's still betting, he probably said they're gonna win. Probably bet his all sort of like
He's probably bet that he's going to take a penalty and score it because there's no way he's missing.
yeah. So and I should probably have him back and replace him with Mitrovic because he didn't get any points this week. So that's something we'll talk about maybe later. But yeah, I think Ivan Tony is
Later, yeah.
definitely a huge
Yeah.
worry. But yeah, Leeds, yes, you guys scored 5 goals, but it was against Cardiff. But maybe it could have like a placebo effect where it gives them the confidence that, hey, we can do it against any team and we see a shocking result. But the obvious result is Brentford at least wins comfortably there.
Yeah, I agree with you. And then, the last match on Saturday is the big match, Arsenal versus Manchester United. And last time these two were out, United won quite comfortably against Arsenal 3-1. But Arsenal is playing at home. And so, what do you think is going to happen? I think it's going to be a closely contested game,
Yeah,
just based on the both squads. But I believe Arsenal right now, in the current form, is the strongest squad. They've got the youngest, strongest squad. Casemiro's not playing. So I believe that Fred is probably going to start in his place. But I do believe with Saka, Odegaard, Martinelli, Saliba,
yeah,
you've got Nketiah also. That team is a stacked party. Zaka.
it goes on.
Do I need to go on? Do I need to go on with how crazy this team is? How good has Arsenal
Yeah.
been?
Ah, man. I don't know, because last time they played together, I think played against each other rather. Man United won 3-1. So, is there a change potentially? I mean, like you said, Casemiro won't be playing. So, will that change the way they'll be structuring their team? I mean, in the midfield, they usually have uh, Bruno
Eriksen.
and Eriksen, who I believe both are sort of like cams, central attacking midfielders. So, they need to probably replace that area with possibly Fred
Or
or
McTominay.
McTominay, but maybe Fred fits in the position better or not because he's box to box, but McTominay is
Hmm.
like a holding. So I don't know. Who knows what Tenag's up to? But whatever's been doing seems to have been working magic, except for the unfortunate last minute loss in the previous game. So
Hmm.
I think I'm putting my eggs in the United basket, shockingly enough, but who knows? I do think they'll have an
Okay, you
edge given
say
how the tie went when United was terrible.
you say United. I'm saying Arsenal. I'm backing Arsenal. I've been backing Arsenal all season. They have not disappointed me. Even when I thought they were going to drop points, they didn't drop
Yeah,
points. So I mean, they beat Brighton. They didn't lose to Newcastle.
yeah,
This
cool.
Arsenal team. I think Arsenal's case is going to come when they face City twice or 3 times this season
Yeah,
because they're facing them next week Friday as well in the FA Cup fourth round. So yeah. So I believe Arsenal did the homework and they will do what Manchester United did to City. They will do to United, right? And then the last game of the game week will be a London derby against where we will see Fulham at the Cottage taking on Tottenham Hotspurs. This should be a cracker, don't you agree?
yeah. I'm trying to think. Fulham are good. I'm assuming Mitro doesn't have any yellow card offenses, so he will be playing.
Yeah, he served his suspension already, so he's
Okay.
clean. His suspension
Okay,
was
cool.
before the FA Cup third round, so he should be good.
Yeah. Obviously, I'd say I expect Fulham to win, and then potentially Conte gets sacked after that. Who knows? But um, I'm trying to think. Harry Kane two game weeks ago like had the best performance this season, where I think he scored twice and had an assist, or scored once and had an assist. So he could spring out of nowhere and perform. But I mean, Son, the only time he performed well was when he scored the hat trick coming from the bench, and since then he's been, I don't know, stuck in some grave or something. He's been terrible. So
Hmm.
yeah, I should think Fulham wins, and Spurs find themselves in a very very tricky position where they just need to look at maybe potentially finding a new manager. But I think whoever gets in that position, they don't have a shot. They honestly don't.
I think it's going to be a quite good. I think it might in just with a one goal difference.
Hmm.
Either team could win. I can see either team winning. I do want Fulham to win, kind of, because uh, just so that Spurs can drop some points.
Yes,
Just me selfishly, but Fulham tends to put people to the middle, and then the other end they kind of crash and burn. So in matches, not overall.
yeah,
Let's see what happens. I do think it's going to be close, and with a one goal separating the two teams, and that is wrapping up our preview for game week 2021, which should be a cracker. Some interesting um, fixtures coming up.
yeah,
Will affect the table at the top, in the middle, as well as in the at bottom. We'll move on quickly to our FPL and transfer segment. There's
yeah.
only two of us here, so we will just give our thoughts of who we think under the radar players in FPL, Fantasy Premier League, if you don't know what FPL stands for, and who we think is ones to watch, yeah, under the radar, and who should probably be not in your team right now. So, Richard, who is your one to watch going into the next couple of game weeks? And who do you think should people just get rid of?
I think a lot of it depends on. It's not just about the play; it's about who they're going to be facing in that
The
game.
fixtures.
Obviously, yes, a lot of people should be scared about having Arsenal and Man United defenders because it's very much easy that both teams. Sorry, it's very much easy that both teams could concede in that game. So maybe
Mm-hmm.
don't have those as your defenders, and maybe try find alternatives like maybe Newcastle defenders, Brighton defenders, or something like that. And then
Brentford.
definitely. So who pops up when I mention that? Maybe who's that guy from Brentford that sorry from Brighton that scored? It's not Gross, it's Marsh, right?
Solly Marsh.
Yes, sorry, Marsh is someone to definitely have your eyes on. I think Olise's sort of like free kick goal was a miracle. So don't be too happy about putting him in your team
Mm.
yet. And a lot of people have been complaining about Kevin De Bruyne.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, he costs so much, but it doesn't bring in like points. So maybe it's time to start looking for an alternative.
Mm-hmm.
Attack wise, Haaland is the best person to have, especially because they're facing Wolves. But then again, Wolves is a team that's good defensively. But again, City. So maybe still have him. But yeah, those are the only players that pop up so far.
Yeah, I think for me, I wouldn't be too hasty about selling Arsenal or United assets, uh, because last time people said don't do to Newcastle and Arsenal, and then it ended up in a no draw.
Yeah,
Everybody got clean sheets. People got bonus points. So that's the risk. That's the gamble you take. But if you want to
yeah,
go the safe route, I would agree with you. Go with Brentford. You can go with Burnley. You can go with the likes of maybe Trippier for sure.
yes,
And then maybe one of your City defenders, because they're playing Wolves, like a Nathan Ake,
yes,
who's a guaranteed start. I would shy
right.
away from maybe the likes of Cancelo, who's not been performing too well. He's a bit expensive. I wouldn't be investing in Liverpool defenders, to be honest. Trent and Robertson, they both have been not great. Trent is getting the
Yeah,
assist up, but he can't guarantee it. So if you're looking for maximum
Consistency.
points, stay away from teams that leaks goals. Um, in goal, I would say your best bet would be Edison this week because the players are facing Wolves. I would say whoever's facing Bournemouth um, could potentially have a good goalkeeper in there.
Yeah.
But I would shy away from Allison this week. I would shy away from the Gea this week. I would also shy away from, and if you got Dean
From
Henderson,
Ward
obviously you need.
apparently because yeah,
Yeah.
maybe the
No, I wouldn't. I would if you. I would say the best bets this week is Pope or Edison. If you've got
yeah,
one of them, or maybe Raya in your team, one of those
yes,
three,
yeah,
put them in your goal, um, in your goal between your sticks, and then in the midfield, Solly Marsh, maybe Matoma from Brighton is ones to
yes,
watch, and then maybe get
yes,
Alistair
yes,
because he's also there, but Matoma's the dribbler, he gets forward, but Marsh is taking the free kicks, he's taking the corners. I don't
yeah,
know who's on penalties. Maybe Mac Alistair is on penalties, but Brighton is definitely where you need to be investing in. I think a lot of people have Odegaard and Saka and Martinelli in the team. I think they're going to suffer this week a little bit with the Arsenal midfield. So if you've got a lot of Arsenal players, you might think about benching some of them.
yeah, one or two.
Um, and then I would say stay away from Palace and those people. So maybe get Andreas or Fulham in, and so forth. And then in attack, Haaland. Last time they faced Wolves, he got like 20 odd points or 30 odd points. So he's the captaincy option for me. Haaland definitely because they're facing Wolves. And then Ivan Tony. If you've got both Tony and Mitrovic, maybe I would say sell Mitrovic, keep Tony. This would be a week if you've got if you've got two free transfers, maybe, and you don't want to fix anything on top. If you want to fix your attack, maybe just swap out Mitrovic for Tony. Tony is but it's more expensive than Mitrovic, but you are guaranteed returns more than Mitrovic because he's a bit unpredictable. And then if you've got, who's the other attacker that people, Harry Kane, but they're facing
Yes,
Fulham. So I think those are the three: Kane, Tony, Haaland. If you got those three, I think you should be golden
yeah,
this week.
and you also mentioned the return of Isak from Newcastle, and I think last week he bagged 8 points, so he's also someone to sort of like be worried
Yeah, he
about.
came off the bench last week. He came off the bench and scored a goal. The problem with Isaac is you don't know if he's going to start because they've got Callum Wilson, and so that's the conundrum that you've got. But I think if you've got Haaland, Kane, and you've got Tony slash Mitrovic, you should be good. Um, that should be a good package for your attack. And then midfield, make sure you've got at least one Brighton midfielder like Matoma or Marsh. That's
Solly
and
March.
it's pretty cheap if you want to go for that. So that's our FPL. Let's quickly run through our off the top of our head of transfers that we've just seen happening. We've got Vegas that came into United, but we discussed him in the United game already. Harry went in full length about him starting, so we'll not touch on that again. But the big news was that came out yesterday was that Leandro Trossard, is leaving Brighton and is going to Arsenal.
Yeah.
And then the other news was that Danny Ings is going from Aston Villa to West Ham. What are your thoughts on that, Richard?
Yeah, I mean, I'll start off with Danny Ings. I mean, even after he left Liverpool, I think Danny Ings has been someone that's been like, in a game where you think you're gonna lose, Danny Ings comes out of nowhere to score a brilliant goal, and you're like, wow, he won that game out of nowhere. So I really don't know why he was sold because I think even at Aston Villa still performing well.
Mm-hmm.
And Virgos, I mean, I don't know much about him. I mean, the last time he played, in the previous team he was playing at, he wasn't really that great. I mean, only the World Cup against Argentina was performing well, and maybe that's what made people to be like, oh my god, maybe there was potential there. But I mean, like any player that gets into the Premier League, it's a tough league. He has a bit of experience there, but in a smaller team. So maybe with experience around him, he can actually start shining in that front position, especially because people like Rashford are performing. So maybe they'll give him some sort of boost, unintentionally or intentionally. Who knows? But yeah.
Yeah, he's probably brought in because and now that Martial is injured, so he'll probably start a lot of the games now, which is good for him. He just needs to find his footing in this club very quickly so that he can cement his place there. And
Yeah,
then we've got Trossard who went from Brighton to Arsenal,
yeah.
and that's huge because if you look at Arsenal's midfield, because Trossard is mainly a midfield player, he's a winger, and if you look at what Arsenal has at the moment, you've got Fabio Vieira on the bench as well. You've got Reece Nelson on the bench as well, and you've got all these great players. I don't see where Trossard is fitting in that team. Like I don't know if he's going to ever get started in the Premier League, based on who Arteta is putting forth, in the games. So, and then Martinelli.
Oh,
Um,
welcome.
Would you go with Solly March instead? Oh, we've got Harry who's asking, would you go with Solly March instead of Tony as a wild card? Um, I would put Tony slightly ahead of March.
Yeah,
That's just like you guaranteed returns for Tony.
yeah.
He takes the penalties. March is it's going to depend on who they play and how they are doing. So yeah, I think Tony is the more consistent one of the two. And Chris Hood is going to Forest. Could that be a good move to get him into your team? I would suggest that with Chris Hood, you wait a week or so
Mm.
just to see how he lines up with the team. Um, because that team is huge, especially for us. You like it's well like with Dennis that came in, he doesn't start. So if you want to go for it, it's probably a big risk. I wouldn't go for Chris Wood at this point until I've watched a game or two and see if he's going to have a permanent starting position in that team because they've got Johnson and they've got Iwombi and they've got Aroa that's there as well. So it's going to be difficult with Chris Wood.
Yeah, Fergus
Okay.
played with Burnley, probably didn't get the service he'll get at United from Bruno, Casemiro, Rashford, Eriksen, etc.
Yeah, I think Vegas did well at Burnley. It's just a pity they got relegated, so you couldn't see. And he came in half of the season, so you couldn't really see the. He came through January transfer window of that season, last season, so you couldn't really see a lot of his gameplay. So yeah, it might be good for him in a team of like United. Whether the transfer is permanent or if it's just a loan, I'm not. I think it's a loan. I mean, whether he's going to stick at United or go back to Burnley because Burnley most probably is going to get back into the Premier League next season.
Yeah.
So we are going to go to our predictions game. Richard, if you don't mind, because I don't have my phone, it's charging. If you could just read the prediction leaderboard as I sent it to our chat, our private chat. And then what we'll do is also we will give to the two of us, we will give our two picks, but we will not assign points because there's only the two of us here. We'll do the
Yes.
points in the chat with everybody else once they're there.
Awesome. So we'll start off with you, Warren. You said United will beat Palace. That didn't happen, I believe, for 1 point, and you got 0 points. And then you said Liverpool will beat Wolves by at least 2 goals. Unfortunately, that didn't happen with 1 goal, so it's another 0. Go to Abdus. He said Spurs will lose against City. Well, we'll lose the City. And yes, Spurs did lose, so he got 1 point. And then Haaland to blank. Haaland didn't blank. He actually scored 1 goal. So it's 0 points for Abdus there. So it's a total of 1 point. And then I said both Leeds and City will win their games by 1 goal. And I think they won their games by high margins like 2 and 3. So unfortunately, 0 for me now.
Goosies.
Yeah, Goose Egg. And then Andreas said Gakpo will score. He didn't score. And then Cardiff will beat Leeds. That didn't happen too. So he has 0 points in total. Harry said Marcus Rashford will score or assist versus Palace. Did that happen? No, it didn't, right?
No,
Oh,
no.
first time he didn't have
Because
a contribution so far since the World Cup. So that's a shock
yeah,
result. And then he said
it was
Wolves will.
Ericsson. It was Ericsson's assist and Fernandez's goal.
Oh, dope. And then he said Wolves will beat Liverpool, and that didn't happen either. So he got 0 points in total in that round. And the leaderboard from week 2 now is Harry has a total of 9 points, and then Warren and myself in second place, both with 3 points. Andreas and Abu both with 1 point, and they're at last place. So that's how the game
Where we
went.
are at.
Yes, so we're going to be doing another predictions game.
Okay, so Richard, I'm gonna have you go first. Like I said, we're not going to put point values because it's gonna be unfair for me to say 1, 2, 3 because it's gonna be, what's the word of it? There's not gonna be a quorum. It's not gonna be a majority. So what we'll
Yes.
do is we'll state our things. If you could just type it up in our chat with you and I, and we can post it later in the football chat. That would be great.
Yeah.
Because I don't have my phone with me, and then we'll have once everybody has said this stuff, we will allocate the point
Yeah.
values to them. Cool. So we'll start with your predictions. So what is your first one?
My prediction is that Brighton will run away with a clean sheet against Leicester, I believe.
Yeah. Okay.
And,
So you're
and
saying they will win without conceding goals.
yes. Oh,
Okay.
well, no, they won't concede. Just that they won't concede.
They won't
That's
concede. Yeah. So it's a clean sheet. They will win with a clean sheet. So it will be
yeah,
a 1 or 2 or 3-0 to win. Okay.
it's clean
Cool.
sheet,
And
and
the
then my,
other.
my other one will be. I'll go easy. I'll say, but it's not easy. I'll say Liverpool wins against Chelsea. Who knows what will happen?
Just a clear win, no attachments to it. So they will just win. Right. Oh, this is the hardest part. But anyway, I'm gonna go say I'm gonna say Aston Villa will beat Southampton. But I'm just gonna say that they will beat Southampton. I'm not gonna put anything attached to it. And yeah, so I'm gonna do that, and then I'm going to say um, I'm gonna say City
Okay.
to win against Wolves, but I'm gonna add something to it to give it a more of a thing. I'm gonna say that Haaland must get a goal or assist
Okay. Haaland goal contribution. Okay, we'll see.
or assist. That's my two. I'm playing a bit safe this week because I need the points.
Yeah,
Okay.
Harry having 9 points, so we need like 6 points to at least be equal points with them. So we'll grade them maybe in the chat, and then we'll potentially
We'll
talk
we'll
about.
read them. We'll read them out loud. Remember that the total of the points will be at our last will be next week when we do our last one for January. So that will be when we are doing the Friday show. So there will still be two charges after there's still three charges to catch up. So I might go to what I did in the World Cup and do a double 3-3 near the end.
I mean, who knows? It
No
could pay
people
off.
go.
Yeah, but someone's
At least,
definitely going to
at,
be
at
happy.
least I'm not. At least I'm not at the bottom, so at least we can still play around. So yeah, that brings us to the end of our episode 31. Wow, episode 31. I can't believe it.
Yeah,
31 episodes we've done so far. We thank you so much again for watching our podcast. Without you guys, there will not be a podcast. So we do appreciate all the views and the support, and do share the news about our podcast and like and subscribe. Tell your friends, tell your aunts, your uncles, everybody that we are talking about our favorite thing in the world, which is football. Yeah,
yeah,
and we will be back on Tuesday to discuss game week 21. Game week 21. And we will be previewing as well the I think no, I don't think there will be a preview. Yeah,
oh,
we will just be doing our game week 2020, our game week 21 preview for the Premier League, and we'll discuss more
yes,
transfers, fantasy. So do come and join us again on Tuesday. And thank you, Richard, for joining. And Harry, who popped in for 20 minutes to be with us. Unfortunately, he had to be at a work event, so he couldn't stay with us longer. But Richard, thank you for your time. It was nice having you here with me and discussing.
What is the joy?
And yeah, we'll do it again on Tuesday.